Hi and Assalamualaikum. Today we will proceed to present chapter 11, which is eutrophication. My name is Nur Muslimah binti Ahmad Mohammed, so I will proceed for the part 1 of eutrophications. I will explain the definition of eutrophication. What is eutrophication? Eutrophication is mean an increase in chemical nutrient that typically compound containing nitrogen or phosphorus in an ecosystem. The term is often used to mean the resultant increase in the ecosystem primary productivity. This means excessive plant growth and decay. Cultural or anthropogenic eutrophication is water pollution caused by excessive plant nutrient. The animation shows the process of eutrophication. First, the fertilizer is spread on the land by a tractor. Next, the fertilizer is washed down by rain and absorbed by the soil. Then the fertilizer is transported to a lake by underground water. The presence of the fertilizer in the lake causes overgrowth of the algae and aquatic plants. Now, no sunlight can reach the lower part of the lake, causing algae to die. Next, the bacteria decompose the algae. When doing this, bacteria use up all the oxygen in the lake, making it anoxic. Because of this, all the living organisms in the lake die. The general impact of eutrophication is include lack of oxygen and severe reduction in water quality. Normal food web and ecosystem process are disrupted, creating a dead zone where no animal life can be sustained. Next is the causes of eutrophication. Most of the eutrophication occurring today is a human cause. Natural eutrophication also takes place, but it is insignificant by comparison. Forest fire and fallout from volcanic eruption are natural events that cause eutrophication. Phosphorus is often regarded as the main culprit in case of eutrophication in lakes. Phosphorus, known as an essential element for life, it is a plant nutrient needed for growth and a fundamental element in the metabolic reaction of plants and animals. Plant growth is limited by the amount of phosphorus available. In most water, phosphorus functions as a growth limiting factor because it is usually present in very low concentrations. Any unattached or free phosphorus in the form of inorganic phosphate is rapidly taken up by algae and larger aquatic plants. Because algae only require small amount of phosphorus to grow, excess phosphorus causes extensive algal growth called blooms. Algal blooms are a classic symptom of cultural eutrophication. Next, I will explain about the type of algae. Algal groups are generally classified on the basis of the pigment that colored their cell. The most common algal groups are blue-green algae, that also known as cyanobacteria, green algae, red algae, and brown algae. Algae grow in colonies and are commonly found floating in ponds, lakes, and oceans. Population of algae fluctuate with the availability of nutrient, and a sudden increase in nutrient often result in a profusion of algae known as algal bloom. Algal bloom in freshwater lakes and ponds tends to be caused by blue-green, which is cyanobacteria, and green algae. The excessive amount of nutrient that cause this bloom are often the result of human activity. Some common blue-green algae known to cause bloom as well as release nurse toxin are Microcystis, nostoc, and Anabina. Algal bloom phenomena commonly caused by cyanobacteria that formerly called blue-green algae. They are a simple life form closely related to bacteria. Although they are similar to algae, they are not true algae. Cyanobacteria are different from other algae as they are prokaryotes. Prokaryote is organism characterized by the absence of a distinct membrane-bound nucleus or membrane-bound organelles and by DNA that is not organized into chromosome. All algae are eukaryotes. which is organisms whose cell pose a definite nucleus enclosed by a membrane and organelle enclosed by membranes. Next, I will explain the another type of algae bloom, which is red tide. Red tide in coastal area are a type of algal bloom. They are commonly in many parts of the world, including the New York Bight, the Gulf of California, and the Red Sea. Toxin red tide most often consists of genera from dinoflagellate algae group such as Cornulax and Gymnodium. Some red tide organisms naturally produce potent toxins such as saxitoxin, domoic acid, or brevetoxin. The various red tide toxins each have different modes of action, such as disrupting the proper function of ion channel in neuron, mimicking of neurotransmitter, or inhibition of enzymatic activity. Some red tide toxin can become highly concentrated in various marine organisms that have the ability to filter and consume large quantities of toxin plankton directly from seawater. These include shellfish, finfish, baleen whale, and benthic crustaceae. Frequently, shellfish collected in areas affected by algae bloom can be potentially dangerous for human consumption, leading to closure of shellfish bed for harvesting. The potency of the toxin has been estimated to be 10 to 50 times higher than cyanide or curare. The posters show the phenomena of red tide in Malaysia. People who eat exposed shellfish may suffer from paralytic shellfish poisoning within 30 minutes of consumption. As the conclusions for this part, the growth of a particular algae species can be both sudden and massive. Algae cells can increase to very high density in the water, often thousands of cells per millimeter, and the water itself can be colored brown, red, or green. Algae bloom occur in freshwater systems and in marine environment, and they usually disappear in a few days to a few weeks. That's all from me. I will pass to the next part to my friends. Thank you.
So my name is Kairo Hakim, and today I will be explaining about two major sources of cultural eutrophication, which are nitrogen and phosphate. They are both the culprits behind eutrophication, since both substances increase the chemical nutrients in the ecosystem, resulting in an increase in the ecosystem primary productivity. This means excessive plant growth and decay. So here we take a look at the first source of eutrophication, which is phosphorus. Phosphorus is like a nitrogen. It is critical nutrient required for all life. The most common form of phosphorus used by biological organisms is phosphate, which plays major roles in the formation of DNA, cellular energy, and cell membrane. Phosphorus is a nutrient needed for growth and a fundamental element in the metabolic reaction of plants and animals. High level of phosphorus can lead to algae blooms that produce algae toxin, which can be harmful to human and animal health. The natural scarcity of phosphorus can be explained by its attraction to organic matter and soil particles. Any unattached or free phosphorus gained from the organic phosphate is rapidly taken up by the algae and larger aquatic plants. Because algae only require small amount of phosphorus leaf, excess phosphorus can cause extensively algal growth called blooms. So actually phosphorus is primary cause of eutrophication because phosphorus is usually considered the limiting nutrient in aquatic ecosystem, meaning that the available quantity of this nutrient control the pace of the algae and aquatic plants are being produced. Phosphorus is more important as a limiting nutrient in the system. However, in excess quantity, phosphorus can lead to water quality problems such as eutrophication and harmful algal growth. However, since phosphorus generally occurs in small quantity in the environment, even small increases can negatively affect water quality and biological condition, making that phosphorus the primary cause of lake eutrophication. There are four main sources of phosphorus, which are human sources, animal waste, industrial waste, and human disturbance of the land and its vegetation. A few examples of human waste contributing to eutrophication are the discharge of untreated municipal sewage and the discharge of treated municipal sewage. According to Buston and Van Dresch, the highest increase in nitrogen and phosphorus global supply over this period was caused by point sources. Although some municipal waste is being treated, the current approach to eutrophication control caused by wastewater discharges doesn't mean to establish a reliable nutrient criteria or achieve good ecological status in all rivers and lakes. After that, detergent in waste. Phosphate are common additive in detergent to soften hard water. It enhances the cleaning power of the detergent, which is very helpful in spiking its popularity. Other human waste contributing to phosphorus is septic tank leachate and runoff and leachate from wastewater disposal system. Humans excrete some 3.3 million tons of phosphorus annually. In fact, phosphorus from domestic sewage, in addition to fertilizer runoff, has traditionally been a nuisance because it triggers blooms of algae that deplete local waters of oxygen. So that is why it's very important to have a good channels and treatment of our waste to prevent pollution as well as eutrophication. Next is animal waste. So animal waste is also a contributor to eutrophication from livestock sewage, runoff and infiltration from animal feedlots. Livestock production has been identified as the major source of land-based nutrient pollution. Pollution from livestock has caused massive algal blooms that kill fish and aquatic flora. Livestock waste should be managed properly to mitigate runoff of this phosphorus into water sources in order to protect the environment. Industrial waste is a major source of phosphorus, such as from industrial waste effluent, runoff of undesirable industrial sites, and some types of industrial waste interfere with the removal of phosphorus at water treatment plants. Industrial sources are considered point sources of nutrient for ocean because they discharge nutrient directly to the surface water or groundwater via a pipe or other discrete conveyance. This is why it is critical for every company to provide a guidelines about the proper amount of phosphate being released to the point sources to prevent eutrophication. Lastly, human disturbance of the land and its vegetation come from soil erosion and fertilizer will make their way to water sources and have the potential to cause eutrophication. Phosphorus is an essential nutrient required for plant growth. It helps in root development, plant maturation, and seed development. Therefore, modern farming is reliant on some use of phosphorus-based fertilizer. This is why fertilizer is the cause of since it contains phosphorus. That is why fertilizer is the cause of eutrophication since it contains phosphorus. Another culprit of eutrophication is nitrogen. Plants have high nitrogen requirements, so the addition of nitrogen compounds stimulate plant growth production. So plants rely on microbial nitrogen fixation to convert nitrogen gas into other physical forms such as nitrate. There is a limit to how much nitrogen can be utilized by a plant. Ecosystems receiving more nitrogen than the plants require are called nitrogen saturated. Saturated terrestrial ecosystems contribute both inorganic and organic nitrogen to freshwater, coastal and marine eutrophication, where nitrogen is also typically a limiting nutrient. So the main sources of nitrates are from human sources, animal waste, industrial waste, human disturbance of the land and its vegetation. The sources of nitrate is almost the same as the sources of phosphorus. So human waste, it comes from discharge of untreated municipal sewage, discharge of treated municipal sewage, while for animal waste come from livestock and of or infiltration from animal feedlot. For industrial wastewater, runoff unsewered industrial site, atmospheric deposition over a surface water. Apart from that, for human disturbance and land and its vegetation, the sources of nitrate comes from mines and oil fields, runoff from stress, lawns and construction sites, and inorganic fertilizer. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ahmad Shukri bin Jamil and I would like to talk about the ecological effect of cultural eutrophication. Alright, the first effect will be the increased biomass of phytoplankton. The cultural eutrophication will cause the lakes to be shallow and also will impound the river. Right, this eutrophication will cause the river and also the lake of the water flow will be very slow moving, and the nutrient that at the bottom of the lake and also the river will stimulate the growth of the rooted aquatic vegetation. Right, as this happen, they will cause a further eutrophication, and as eutrophication increase, there will be an algal bloom and the aquatic plant that is normally grow in a shallow water will be very dense. Alright, as this happened, it also affected the second impact, which is the decrease of water transparency. Alright, as the algal or the aquatic plant that is usually grow in a shallow water become very dense. Alright, the water from the lake and also the river will be have a decrease in water transparency, as the algal bloom will change the color of the water into a pea soup green. Okay, next is the third problem, which is our water treatment problem that is also associated with our first and second problem. Right, why I say there will happen a water treatment problem, it is because our river and also lake can also serve as our drinking water resources, right? Alright, as the excess algal growth from the cultural eutrophication, this will clog the intake and also will increase the corrosion of pipes. These two effect will cause the filtration is more expensive, and not only the filtration will be more expensive, it will cause a bad taste and also cause an odor problem of our drinking water. Alright, the next one will be the dissolved oxygen depletion. Why I say our oxygen will be depletion? Because of the first effect, which is the increased biomass of phytoplankton. The increased biomass of phytoplankton will cause our oxygen will cause the oxygen to less penetrable to the water. And also the other cause will be the advanced stage of the cultural eutrophication. Why? Because at the advanced stage, the cultural eutrophication will produce an anaerobic condition, which will cause the oxygen in the water will be completely depleted. As depletion of dissolved oxygen happen, it will contribute to the next effect, which is loss of desirable fish species, that is causing the reduction of harvesting fish and also the shellfish. As we all know, our lakes and also our river can also contribute in our protein intake, which is the fish. As we all know, every living thing need oxygen, right? As this happen, the fish will be dead as they did not have enough oxygen to do their respiration. As the oxygen dissolve is low, therefore there are several species that is less desirable fish species that we will consume as our protein intake, such as the low dissolved oxygen level carp, the middish larvae, and also the sewage worm, which is tubifax. Alright, the next one will be the mutation. As you can see in the picture below, we have a frog that is born abnormally due to the toxic of the cultural eutrophication. Next one will be the algal toxicity. As some algal bloom not only toxic to the plant but will also toxic to the animal, right? These toxic compounds that they produce can make their way up to the food chain, as the freshwater algal bloom can pose a threat to the livestock. Why I say so? It is because if the algae is die or being eaten by the fish, right, the neuro or the hepatotoxins will be released that will eventually kill the animal, and also may pose a threat to our human as we consume the animal that is dead by eating the algae. Alright, last but not least, the nutrient toxicity. The cultural eutrophication will not only cause effect on the water of the lake and also the river, but will also impose the nitrogen that will cause a toxic effect directly. Why I say so? It is because our soil will be absorb the nitrogen, and the nitrogen will not be affected by the natural filtration and can be reached into the groundwater that we all usually use as our drinking water. As we all know, nitrate has been shown to be toxic to human babies. Why I say so is because nitrate will react to hemoglobin to form a methemoglobin. Alright, the methemoglobin that is formed will not carry oxygen throughout the human body, which will cause the baby suffocate as its body did not receive sufficient oxygen. And now I will tell you on how to reverse the effect of cultural eutrophication. Right. The first thing first is we should reduce our use of lawn fertilizer, as this fertilizer usually will use an inorganic substances that it will be drained into our waterways. Next, we should also encouraging a better farming practice that is more safer for our environment. Next, we should also require some industry to pre-treat their waste before sending it to the wastewater treatment plant. And we should also enforce the law on encouraging the people to invest in the community sewer system, other than enacting a strict ordinance to prevent soil erosion. That's all from us. Thank you.